Welcome to Elite Expert Insider Podcast, where we will inspire, motivate, and educate entrepreneurs, innovators, and growth seekers. Brought to you by Elite Online Publishing, making the best and brightest in the industry #1 best-selling authors. 80% of people say they want to write a book. We're assuming that's the same for you. If so, contact us at www.eliteonlinepublishing.com and make your book a reality. Hi, Melanie Johnson here along with Jen Foster.
Hey, guys.
Thanks for joining us for another terrific podcast. We want to remind you to subscribe to our podcast. Just hit that button and, hey, leave us a comment. We would love to hear from you. We always like to hear from people who listen to our podcast. We always bring you great shows, different people that make your life better. And if you're looking to write a book, remember, Jen and I own Elite Online Publishing. So if you're looking to become a best-selling author, contact us there. There's a submission button that you can hit and just send out that little form there and we'll get back with you. So today we have a screenwriter, like a famous award-winning screenwriter with us today. And he has just written his first book that is a #1 bestseller, Return of Christ. So we're going to visit with Jack Snyder. He's written films. He's been even, we have an Oscar in there, not an Oscar award, but we have the word Oscar. So we're going to talk about that too. Jack, thanks so much for joining us today.
Thank you, Melanie and Jen, for having me.
So tell us, Jack, a little bit about yourself and just a little bit of your background, where you're from.
All right. Well, I am from St. Louis, and I live in Los Angeles now. And I have been writing screenplays for decades. And my big breakthrough came in 2006 with the film Ghost Image. I wrote and directed a film titled Ghost Image, starring Elizabeth Rome, Stacey Dash, and others. It was a great Hollywood cast. It was, we shot it in St. Louis where I lived at the time, and it was picked up by 20th Century Fox and was on the movie channel and Showtime over 250 times and is currently still showing in like 15 or 20 countries. At least I think it's still showing because I still get royalty checks. So I guess it's still showing.
Yeah, that's great.
And I've gone on to write and direct 2 more films. That one has already kind of run the gamut through the market. It's titled Fatal Call, and it has Kevin Sorbo in it, and Danielle Harris and Jason London. And then I have one airing on Lifetime right now titled Family of Lies. It airs once or twice a month and has been for about 16 months. And on top of that, I've had 5 more screenplays produced that I've written but not directed. And I have several dozen unproduced screenplays, but maybe someday they'll get produced.
Wow. I mean, that's so exciting. Most people just aspire to get one of their screenplays, and you've even directed on top of that. That's so cool. Now, most of your stuff, it seems like it's in the thriller genre. Would you say that's correct?
That is correct. That is correct. That's the genre I kind of gravitate to. And I'll be honest, it comes easy to me. I just that my brain, my pathways in my brain go down that route much easier than any other route.
And did you always like thrillers? I mean, when you were growing up and stuff, or how do you feel like your brain goes that way?
Well, I've always liked thrillers. I also like science fiction, and I've written a few science fiction screenplays, and usually those will have thriller aspects to them. And sometimes we think we're one thing and we learn we're something else. So as much as I like thrillers, I would really have preferred to just write straight up science fiction scripts. But I dabble in both, but I would always get the thrillers done much more quickly. And then producers always were more interested in those. So that's just how things went.
Well, and tell us about the new book, Return of Christ. This is also a thriller genre. Tell us a little bit how that project started and a little bit about the book.
All right. Well, I met Nadine Rizvi a number of years ago, and he's a biblical scholar and a religious scholar in general. And he contacted me. We met on a professional website, and he contacted me to discuss writing a screenplay titled Return of Christ. And of course he asked me if I had connections to producers, and I do, of course. So we got 2 producers involved as well, and one of them is a very devout Christian, and I've got a Christian background. And so with Nadim and myself and the Christian producer, we worked out the details of the script. And of course, I bring like a thriller, a mystery element to it because, of course, that's, like I said, that's what I'm drawn to. So I wrote the screenplay. It was probably 2015. So we're going back a few years. And then we actually went on location scouting trips around the world. We went to 8 countries, location scouting for the movie. And it's still in process, but movies can take for, you've probably read about movies in development for years and years. That can happen. So then Nadim and I discussed adapting the screenplay into a novel. And we brought Pam Cosell on, she's a great writer, to work with me on that. And that's how it happened. I used the script as an outline, and most writers work from an outline, but when you have an outline that's like 120 pages long, you really have an outline. So it's like,
Right.
like it was a lot easier for me to work from that than like a 5 or 10 page outline. I had this entire screenplay with developed characters and a plot already in place and dialogue. Now, of course, I had to expand on it because books. The great thing about books is books can be as long as you want them to be, and they can have as many characters as you want. Movies are much more limited than that because they can only technically run 90 to 120 minutes. Sure, we got our 3-hour movies and 3.5-hour movies, but generally they're supposed to be 90 to 120 minutes. And so it gave me an opportunity to add scenes to the novel and expand on it, add in a few more characters. It was great. It was a great experience.
That's great. So tell us a little bit about your writing process. I mean, you kind of mentioned it there for a minute with your outline, but tell us kind of how you start writing, whether it's a screenplay or, a novel. What is your process?
Well, what I do is, and every writer's different. There's no right or wrong way to do it. It's just what comes more natural. I start with the plot. I am more of a plot guy. There are writers out there that are character driven and they just wrap themselves into who the character is and build the plot around that. What I do is I start with a plot and I break up the plot in 3 acts. And you don't have to do this for a novel. Some novelists do this. They actually do a 3-act structure like it's a movie. But I do, of course, since I start with screenplays, I have the 3-act structure. And then each act has certain things that are supposed to happen at a certain placement within that. Because unlike a book, where a chapter can be short, a chapter can be long, people can read a little bit and put it down. Certainly you can pause a movie, especially in the world we live in today, but movies are structurally designed that you watch from beginning to end and don't stop it. Because that's the old days when you had to do it that way. You sit in the theater or you turn on the TV and you don't have a DVR or you want to whatever, you have to sit there and watch it. You go up and use the bathroom or get a drink of water during a commercial break, but it's not like you can stop it. So you have to still have that same mindset when you're making a movie or creating a script. So with the screenplay, you have certain things that happen throughout. And so I put all those in place first, and my characters are sort of placeholders. I know I need certain characters to do certain things. So once I have that completely laid out, the plot, that's when I back off from the plot and I start to sink completely, do a deep dive into the characters and their personalities. And then these characters are kind of structured to fit the plot. I'm cheating a little bit because I have a plot already in place. So I can't have a character that doesn't fit in the story. And so then I do that. And then when that's all done, then I actually write the screenplay. So, and then I can do it really quickly too, because once all those pieces are in place, I can just bang out the screenplay. I pride myself on how fast I am. As you two know, I wrote the book pretty quickly. And of course, and I want my readers to know that I didn't shortchange them because I wrote it quickly. Everything I do, I do quickly. The movie that I have running on Lifetime right now, Family of Life, I wrote that script in less than 2 weeks because that's all I had. My producer is working with NBCUniversal. That's all I had. And so sometimes when that's all you have, that's all you have. It's like,
yeah, when you have a deadline, you do it. You get it done.
You just get it done.
Well, yeah, well, I know with this book, we had a deadline, and then you just said, okay, I'm locking myself in my room for 2 weeks or a week, and then you're like, I'm just going to get it done. This is the deadline. You're like, I'm putting everything else aside, and you just focused, and you came up with, it was awesome. It was beautiful.
Oh, thank you. Thank you. And I do have a little bit of a confession to make. I wrote it in 3.5 weeks, and I still wrote half a screenplay during that time because I had a deadline for my screenplays for my clients. I turn in chunks so they can approve it. I had a deadline that was already set. That was in the middle of that. So I wrote the entire novel and half a screenplay in 3.5 weeks. And I was fit to be tied by the end of that.
I bet. Wow.
It shows what you can do when you put your mind to it.
Right. Well, and I really like, Jack, how you have the process and system down. And I think that's key for any writer, whether they're writing a screenplay, a novel, or just a blog, is having that system in place so that you can knock it out quickly because you know how to do it and how to structure it. And it just becomes, that's just how we do it. That's the system.
That's right. That's right. And I mean, it's when you're a professional at something like you guys are, and like I am, and others that we know, you just, when you're a professional, you have to get things done. And it's like I was on, I know I'm getting a little bit off topic here, but about 2 years ago, I was on a panel at a convention with writers, and we were all talking about writer's block, and everybody down the line saying how they deal with writer's block and blah, 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 blah. And sometimes they're just writer's block prevents them from writing. And I was sitting at the very end of the table. And there's about 7 of us. So when it gets to me, I said, I don't have writer's block. I said, I have a private school to pay for a kid. I have a mortgage payment. I have car payments. I go, I can't afford to have writer's block. And you could have heard a pin drop in the room, and all the writers looked down like this. It's like, when you just have to get it done, you have to get it done.
Yeah, you have no time for that. You have no time for that.
You have a big why. That's right. The reason why you're doing it is a really big reason.
Right.
Well, let's promote the book a little bit and talk about Return of Christ. Tell us what's compelling about the book and why should people read it?
Well, the book, in my opinion, and I know I'm biased because I'm the main writer on it, but the book has a little bit of everything for everybody. It is a Christian book, which is faith-based, very inspiring, biblical quotes. It ties into the end times, and so I think a lot of Christians, those interested in eschatology, would be interested in it. I think Christians that are just interested in Christianity would be interested. But, even beyond that, I think the demographic expands beyond that because it is also a crime drama. It is a mystery, a thriller, as we already mentioned. All those are related anyway. And there's twists and turns. There's surprises. The characters in it are trying to figure out certain elements. They're trying to decipher certain religious, biblical, scriptural verses, and then characters they meet. Some of them are on their side. Some of them aren't. Some of them are deceptive. And so it's got a lot going for it to appeal to many different demographics. I didn't get science fiction in there. I like science fiction, so if that's not in there. But there's a lot of genres in there that are kind of strung together like beads on a string, different genres.
Yeah.
And so I think it's very enjoyable. And because scripts, and I know it's not script, but because screenplays have to move very quickly on every page because you have so few pages, and books don't have that limitation. I still applied that same mindset, and I wanted it to be exciting on every single page and move on every single page because it's like there's lots of writers I like, and I love, but every now and then I just got to put it's like, oh, I love this book, but boy, it's kind of dragging here right now. I got to put it down. I didn't want that. I didn't want my readers to have that experience. I wanted it to feel kind of like a movie, like they're reading a movie, and so that was my approach to it.
Those are the best books too.
Yeah, that's great.
It's a page turner.
Yes, yes.
And so is there still are they still in the works of processing this into a movie?
Well, yes, that's ongoing. I communicate with the producers involved once in a while. We're all busy with other projects, and they travel around the world working on movies. And I'm not going to mention their names because lots of times producers, until a project is really in development, like to keep it low profile. But I will say, one of the producers is an Oscar nominee, and the other producer has produced one series of films that is huge and iconic. And so, and I wish I could just simply say who they are, but I can't. Yeah. And but they're interested. But of course, you know, they're like with me writing a bunch of screenplays. I write screenplays for multiple clients. Not every screenplay goes to production.
Right.
Huge hurdle to go from say, you know, client hires me and pays me X number of dollars to go to write a script, to go from that to raising millions and millions of dollars to making the movie is huge. It is huge. The gap, the chasm between being on just writing it and making the film. Mm-hmm. And so not everything gets into production. And producers go through the exact same thing. My producer friends at any given time can be juggling a dozen film projects, but every 2 or 3 years, one gets made. And so they're actually juggling more at any given time. They're juggling more than they might actually be able to make in their lifetime. But they don't know what's going to take off. They don't know what's going to get funded. They don't know.
So what's your advice? There's so many authors who are writing books and like, oh, you know, I think it could be made into a movie, but they don't have a clue of how to get started. So what would be your advice to them of, hey, you think you've got a great book, now what? What should they do next?
Okay, well, there's two different ways to do this. One is if your book is a bestseller and attracts producers, that's the easiest route. Obviously, you have a book that's a bestseller. There's that huge if there, but right. You know, it becomes a bestseller, then a producer will maybe be drawn to it. The other way to do it is to adapt it into a screenplay or hire someone to do that. Because producers, they're much more likely to read a screenplay. It is shorter. And it also, you know, there's a saying that producers like to see a lot of white on the page. Because if you look at a screenplay page, it's very empty compared to a manuscript page. And just the way it's structured, the format. So it's shorter and it's an easier read than to read a book that they're not familiar with, that it just might be, well, I might be interested in it. Screenplay is the same problem, but it's just shorter and they can get through it faster. So that would be, you know, that's really the two methods to do it. I wish I could give just the easy answer. You know, it's like, you know, a bottle of pills. Take one of these pills, and your book will be adapted into a movie. I mean, it's right. Like I wish I could do that, but I can't. So it's either way, it's huge hurdles.
Yeah, like you say, even if it's a great screenplay, I'm sure you've written many that are wonderful, fantastic, but they don't get chosen for whatever reason. They're looking for a specific project. So you get some that make it and some that don't.
That's
so we
right.
have to keep that in mind.
That's right. And also it's a little bit of a myth that you write a screenplay, you get discovered, it's turned into a movie, you're famous, you walk the red carpet. It's a myth in the sense that it's not very common. So I shouldn't really say it's a myth. It's like, for example, there are people out there that buy one lottery ticket in their life and win the lottery. But we all know that that's not really the case. It is not the case. It's all these hurdles, all these steps, and it's extremely difficult. But it can be done. It can be done. I mean, I've done it, and I started in St. Louis. I didn't even start in Los Angeles.
So there you go. And there's more opportunities now with Netflix, Hulu, Apple's getting into the business. A lot more genres, opportunities that they're creating a lot of content. So that's good news for screenwriters like you.
That's right. That's right. The outlets are greater than it ever was before. The paychecks are a little smaller because lots of times it's that same amount of money divided up over and over and over again. However, if your goal is to get your work seen and payment secondary, well, then go for it. Go for it. That's always been my goal. My goal is if I never made $1 making a movie, I still wanted to make movies. I still wanted to write.
That's great. Well, tell us a little bit, or tell us where they can find you, Jack. Where can people go to find you and find more information about the book?
Well, you can find me in a few different places. You can find me on my page on Amazon. And you can also find me at the Return of Christ Facebook page. And the third place you can find me is the Internet Movie Database, IMDb. You can look me up there as well.
Terrific.
Excellent.
Make sure you get the book, Return of Christ. It's a #1 bestseller. It's an incredible book. It's a page turner, like Jack said. You won't want to put it down. You'll feel like you're right there, like you're in a movie when you're reading it. So make sure you pick it up on Amazon. Thanks for coming, Jack. Remember to subscribe to our podcast. We would love to hear from you. And if you're looking to become a #1 best-selling author, then contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, and we'll see you next time.
All right. And I wanted to add that working with Jen and Melanie at Elite Online Publishing has made this book possible, because anybody can sit down and write a book, but you need to get it out there on the market. And I highly recommend Elite Online Publishing. Jen and Melanie gave us the first class treatment, and it's been a wonderful experience from beginning all the way through the whole entire process. Thank you.
Thanks, Jack.
If you'd like to create the most powerful advertising tool for your business, contact us at eliteonlinepublishing.com, where we will help you create, publish, and make your book a #1 bestseller, and show you how to get new leads and more revenue for your business. If you'd like to check us out on our Facebook page, we have a free book for you as our gift. Just go and click Free Book. Remember to subscribe and leave a comment for our podcast. We would love to hear from you.